Welcome back to Braintree Today. I'm Sarah Hamilton and you're watching BCAM TV. Now we'll be getting into our latest stories from the week. Tensions in the Middle East continue to rise as Iran warns it could target major shipping routes. An Iranian general said Wednesday that Tehran may shut down traffic in the Red Sea and other key waterways if a U.S. naval blockade continues. The warning comes as the U.S. military enforces a blockade on Iranian ports. U.S. Central Command says no ships have been able to pass through the blockade in its first 48 hours. Officials say 9 vessels, all believed to be oil tankers, were turned around by U.S. forces. The U.S. says the blockade is part of its efforts to pressure Iran during ongoing tensions in the region. However, Iranian officials warn the move could escalate the conflict further. A deadly school shooting in southern Turkey has left multiple people dead and injured. Officials say at least 8 students and 1 teacher were killed in the attack at a secondary school in the Kahramanmaraş region. Another 13 people were injured, with 6 in critical condition. Authorities say the 14-year-old suspect was also killed. The shooting happened Wednesday, just 1 day after a separate school shooting in the same region left 16 people injured. Officials say the motive remains unclear and an investigation is underway. Local reports say the suspect entered classrooms armed with multiple weapons. The suspect's father has been detained by police. Parents gathered outside the school as the incident unfolded, with witnesses describing panic and people fleeing the building. In a potential school shooting incident, this one in Oklahoma, a high school principal is being praised for stopping a school shooter earlier this month. Authorities say the incident happened April 7th at Pauls Valley High School, when a former student entered the building armed with 2 handguns. Investigators say the suspect, a 20-year-old, fired several shots inside the school. Principal Kirk Moore rushed from his office and tackled the gunman, with help from another staff member. Moore was shot in the leg during the struggle, but is expected to recover. Police say no students were injured. The suspect was taken into custody and is being held on $1 million bail. Officials say he now faces multiple charges, including shooting with intent to kill, and is due in court on May 8th. Authorities credit the principal's actions with preventing a much larger tragedy. A jury has found Live Nation and its subsidiary, Ticketmaster, operated an illegal monopoly over major concert venues. The verdict came on Wednesday after a multi-state lawsuit accusing the company of limiting competition in the ticketing industry. Jurors found that customers in some states paid about $1.72 more per ticket due to anti-competitive practices. The ruling does not immediately lower prices, but could lead to fines worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A judge will now decide on penalties, which could include forcing the company to sell some venues. Live Nation says it plans to challenge the decision as the case moves forward. With tax season wrapping up, many Americans are now starting to see their refunds, and a new report shows those refunds are higher on average this year. Analysts estimate the average refund for 2026 is about $3,571, with nearly 73% of taxpayers receiving money back. That's higher than last year, thanks in part to recent tax policy changes. The report also found some states are seeing even larger refunds. Florida ranked first with an average refund of more than $4,400, followed by Texas and Wyoming. Experts say many filers may end up owing less or getting more back than in years past. Thanks for watching Braintree Today. We'll be right back with more after the break.
I'm Mayor Erin Joyce, and I'd like to tell you about some important projects we're working on here in Braintree to improve the quality of our local water bodies and to protect our town from the dangers of flooding and stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff is the water generated from rain and snowmelt that flows over hard surfaces and does not soak into the ground. Stormwater runs through a system of pipes in the street and into our local water bodies, such as the Cochado River, Farm River, Manatequit River, and Sunset Lake. In Braintree, we have a separate sewer system. So what does that mean? That means that there are actually 2 separate pipes in most streets that carry stormwater and sanitary sewer separately. So when it rains and water washes into our catch basin system, it ties into the stormwater system, which transports water to our water bodies. Over the past 5 years, the town of Braintree has been working hard to maintain and improve our stormwater drainage systems. Now, we're constructing retrofits to the drainage system. These drainage retrofits use the natural process of infiltration to improve water quality and reduce potential flooding in our neighborhoods. At Watson Park, we're constructing a subsurface infiltration system beneath some of the fields, which residents probably won't even realize is beneath their feet when they're walking in the park. Water, as it's flowing off of the neighborhood and flowing uncontrolled to the Fore River, is going to be collected first into a chamber system that sits underground, and the water will be allowed to stop and pause there, giving it time to infiltrate into the ground, treating the water that would otherwise flow untreated and uncontrolled into the Fore River.
I'm Rachel Horak. I live here in Braintree, and I'm the president of Sustainable Braintree. We think of ways that we can help our residents of Braintree live healthier lives that are in better harmony with our planet. The positive impacts of the Watson Park project are cleaner waterways, reduced flooding, and a healthier environment for our residents. In the infiltration basin at Watson Park, there's a fabric that separates the sediments so that the water can flow, and it makes maintenance easier for the town of Braintree. Lots of residents use Smith Beach for swimming. This project will help decrease the incidence of closed beaches due to bad bacteria. Some of the ways that residents can help are reduce the amount of fertilizers that you use on your lawn, picking up pet waste, reducing the amount of garbage in our streets, and also raking the catch basins that you might see on the roadways.
To pay for these projects, we're leveraging grants from the Mass DEP, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. As a Braintree resident, you should know that the town is actively working on projects that help improve the water quality in our water bodies. With your help and these projects, we will help filter pollution and keep Braintree's rivers, lakes, and streams beautiful for years to come.
Welcome back to Braintree Today. I'm Sarah Hamilton. Now we'll be getting into more stories. On Tuesday, the planning board met for their monthly meeting at Braintree Town Hall. Their Academy head of school, Chris Fortunato, gave a brief presentation regarding the renovation of the Thayer Academy football field and surrounding area. Here's more from Mr. Fortunato and his staff.
Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm Chris Fortunato, I'm Thayer's head of school. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this improvement project with all of you, and very appreciative of the longstanding relationship we have with the town of Braintree. As has been mentioned, this really is an improvement project. In some ways, it's a bit of a facelift and increasing the operational effectiveness of the existing field and the track. The track is coming to the end of its useful life and does need to be replaced. The field right now, current grass field, which is mostly, almost exclusively used for football, doesn't really give the school what it needs, partly because of the weather on a regular basis. Our football team is using it both for practices and for games, and so we tear that field up on a regular basis, and it becomes less functional and less safe for our students. And also is not being able to be used right now for other sports like field hockey, soccer, and lacrosse. And so this replacement of the existing field will allow us to multi-sport function to accommodate more sports for boys and girls at the school. The replacement of the track is something that just needs to happen for the functionality and safety of the track. And then, as has been mentioned too, we have some of these wonderful evenings the last several years called Friday Night Lights, where we'll have usually a football or a lacrosse or a soccer game that takes place a few times a year. And we typically have been bringing in portable lights that are louder and less environmentally friendly than we would like them to be, and also they're not of the sort of highest, most modern caliber, so they light spills in different places. We'd like to continue that program. I think that's both great for the Thayer community and also for the surrounding community. And we want to be able to use the most modern lights that are not going to cause any disruption to our neighbors. Last, a couple pieces associated with this project. Right now, we typically live stream many of our games, and so we have video and photo that's taking place, and we have that on sort of an outdoor stand that is not, it is functional but not great. And when we have a lot of the inclement weather that we tend to contend with here in New England, we want to be in a place where we can actually enclose that, so those who are taking video and doing that work can do so safe from the elements, and we can make that more effective. And as I mentioned, also, it's time for us to upgrade our scoreboard, and also with some of with our speaker system, we want to make sure that that's the most appropriate, not bothering our neighbors, and giving the school what it needs. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to improve the effectiveness and to really improve this site overall. And we're excited to be able to make that happen for our students and for the community. We love the fact that Thayer is an open campus, and so when we have neighbors, for example, who are walking on our track at different times of the day or over the course of the entire year, we want to make sure that's, again, safe, effective, and aesthetically pleasing to the Thayer community and to the surrounding community as well.
So just to reorient and zoom ourselves back in, here's the existing field, the older red style track. It's starting to show its wear and tear of the age. The baseball field is over here. There's a small observatory here and a small bleachers podium section here where the current fans sit, and then a lot of the fans just congregate around the edges of the track / field today with no real dedicated place to view the games that exist today. Just want to go the proposed plan now back to here. So it's essentially we're taking that red rubber track you just saw, replacing it with a new hard surface, different color of paint to have more of the Thayer school logos and colors, tire on that field. The lights that were mentioned previously, there are 4. They're actually at the 15-yard line on each side of the 50 here. So you have 4 light poles on the yellow light stoles here. The bleachers, about 450 seat bleachers is what is proposed here on this side of the field. Again, the observatory I mentioned previously is on this area. So essentially we're taking the loam and seed that exists today and going to be replacing it with a turf media section that'll have associated under drains, which Field Turf has detailed out in their plans that have been submitted with this set. They do this turf across the country, so are well versed in the application of this as well as the construction.
On Wednesday, the Braintree Town Council and Braintree School Committee had a special public meeting at Braintree Town Hall. The public meeting was regarding the MSBA Statement of Interest core project for Braintree High School, the closing of Highlands Elementary School, and the Braintree Schools Master Plan. Town Council Vice President Elizabeth Maglio made some comments to the school committee. Here's more from Town Councilor Maglio.
Where I'm really having a hard time following is we have a school system with all these schools for all these kids. And we're saying that we're moving forward in this direction with this school. It's not part of a plan, but we're building a plan. And depending on what happens with this school will also help shape this plan. Would that be an accurate representation? Okay. But yet we know in this plan that we're already shutting down schools. We just don't know what's going to really happen for some of them. So we know that Highlands was voted on and will be moving to Old South. Okay. There's also on the slides, part of option 2, option 3, and all of that, that Ross is next on the chopping block. And it seems like there is a plan, but it's not really, it's on slideshows and flyers, and yet there's no actual plan until it's voted on, and it's not voted on until it comes up at the school committee. And at the school committee, there's not a lot of, I don't know what the school committee is basing their information on. I would imagine it's what the consultants have developed, right? So how can these major decisions be made about the high school, about other places, without having a sense of what that impact is? So for example, a high school, when we look at the high schools that are being built today, they're 200 million, 300 million. 5, 6 years down the road, it's going to be $500 million. So it's $250 million that the state is willing to put in, and then the other 250, Braintree needs to come up with. Braintree families, Braintree voters, Braintree residents, everybody, right? We're a town. We're one town. But it feels like we're only a town for the high school right now in this process. And I feel like I'm seeing, it's not feeling, I'm just seeing that there is a reluctance to really name what's going to happen. And I think that is short-sighted, because I think we need to bring the town along on all of this, particularly if there's going to be a price tag of 100, 200 million that we have to come up with, that we're going to be paying down for years.
To watch the Braintree Planning Board meeting and the Braintree Town Council meeting, tune into BCAM TV Government Channel, Channel 8 on Comcast, and Channel 26 on Verizon. And check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/BCAMTV. A local man is facing a long road to recovery after a medical emergency while traveling overseas. 39-year-old Andrew Wassel traveled more than 7,000 miles to India in February to serve as his brother's best man. But after a wedding event, he became ill and was hospitalized. Doctors diagnosed him with bacterial pneumonia and a severe blood infection. His condition worsened, and he eventually underwent amputation of his lower legs. Wassel's family says his medical care was covered by insurance, but the cost of flying him back to Boston on a medical air ambulance is not. They say that cost can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wassel is expected to return home on April 19th. Anyone looking to donate can do so through a GoFundMe page the family started to help cover travel and long-term care costs. The Thayer Public Library wants to alert residents about a temporary service disruption later this month. The library will be transitioning to a new, easier-to-use catalog system on April 30th. As part of that change, the current system, including Libby, Hoopla, and Canopy, will be unavailable from April 27th through April 29th. During that time, staff will not be able to look up library card barcodes. Residents are asked to bring their library card with them to borrow or pick up materials. The library will remain open during its regular hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Braintree Retirement Board will hold a public hearing later this month. The hearing is scheduled for Thursday, April 23rd at 4:15 p.m. It will take place at 74 Pond Street on the second floor. Officials will discuss a possible cost of living adjustment, also known as a COLA, for eligible Braintree Retirement System pension recipients. If approved, the adjustment would take effect July 1st, 2026. The public is welcome to attend. The meeting will be held in person with a remote option available through Zoom. The town of Braintree began its annual water flushing program on April 6th. The work takes place Monday through Thursday from 7 p.m. to midnight and will continue through the end of August. Officials say signs will be posted in areas where flushing is scheduled. Residents may notice temporary water discoloration during this time. Officials advise avoiding laundry during flushing hours and making sure water runs clear before use. For questions, residents can contact the Water and Sewer Department at 781-843-8097. Thank you for watching Braintree Today on BCAM TV. We'll be right back with more stories in the area, but first, here's a look at events happening this month at the Braintree Senior Center, located at 71 Cleveland Ave in Braintree. The Braintree Senior Center has a full lineup of activities this April for residents age 60 and older. From weekly social programs to special events and presentations, there are plenty of opportunities to stay active and connected. The center also offers a variety of weekly activities. Fitness classes are available daily. On Mondays, residents can enjoy bocce at 10, the walking group at 10:30, men's coffee hour at 11, and pool players at noon. Tuesdays feature game day from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Wednesdays, Asian Outreach meets at 11, followed by GEMS exercise at 1. Thursdays include quilting at 11:30, pool lessons at 12:30, and knitting at 1. And on Fridays, pool players meet at noon and movies are shown at 1 p.m. Several special events are also scheduled throughout the remainder of the month. Upcoming events include the photography group on April 9th and 23rd, and a Heart and Vessels presentation on April 13th. On April 17th, the center will host a spa day, book club meeting, technology class, and advisory board meeting. Later in the month, residents can attend a Whitey Bulger presentation on April 22nd, a discussion and craft class on April 27th, an Alzheimer's presentation on April 28th, and a historical presentation on April 29th. For more information or to sign up, residents are encouraged to contact the Braintree Senior Center directly. The center is located at 71 Cleveland Avenue in Braintree and can be reached by phone at 781-848-1963. Welcome back to Braintree Today. Now let's get right into more stories. A Carver man has been arrested in connection with an alleged multi-year dogfighting operation. Officials announced Tuesday. Federal officials say 49-year-old Corey Elliott is accused of breeding, training, and fighting dogs in violation of the Animal Welfare Act. Prosecutors say he hosted dogfighting events at his home and built structures to house and condition the dogs. Investigators searched the property last year and seized several dogs with injuries consistent with fighting, along with equipment used in the operation. Elliott was arraigned in federal court in Boston and could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. A Massachusetts State Police sergeant was arraigned Wednesday on a perjury charge in connection with the death of a state police recruit. Sergeant Jennifer Penton pleaded not guilty and was released on personal recognizance. Prosecutors say Penton gave false testimony during the investigation into the 2024 death of 25-year-old recruit Enrique Delgado Garcia. Investigators say Delgado Garcia died after suffering a brain bleed during an unauthorized boxing exercise at the State Police Academy. Penton is one of 4 instructors facing charges, including involuntary manslaughter. She is the only one also charged with perjury for allegedly misleading a grand jury. A pretrial hearing in the case is scheduled for June 17th. Momentum is building in Quincy to recognize Lunar New Year as an official school holiday. For years, advocates have pushed Quincy Public Schools to add the holiday to the calendar, without success. But this year, supporters may finally have the votes. 2 advocates for the change were elected to the school committee last November, shifting the balance in favor of the proposal. Quincy has a large Asian student population, making up nearly 40% of the district. In some schools, more than half of the students have previously stayed home on Lunar New Year. The school committee could take up the issue as early as May 6th. However, in 2027, the holiday falls on a Saturday, meaning students would not receive a day off even if it is approved. The former Showcase Cinema in Randolph has been sold, but its future remains unclear. State records show the property was sold for $9 million on March 18th to a Boston-based real estate company. The theater, located on Mazzeo Drive, had its last day of operations on March 1st. The new owner says they are in talks with a potential tenant, but have not announced any plans for the site. The property includes a large, multi-screen theater building along a major commercial corridor off Route 24. Officials say the location could be redeveloped or leased to a new operator in the future. The closure of Showcase Cinema Deluxe Randolph leaves it with only 7 other locations in the state. The Boston Marathon returns this Monday with tens of thousands of runners set to take part. The race will take place on April 20th, with about 30,000 athletes from more than 130 countries running the 26.2-mile course from Hopkinton to Boston. Race day kicks off in Hopkinton, with the first event starting just after 9 a.m., and runners continuing in waves throughout the late morning. Spectators can watch along the entire route, with popular spots including Wellesley College, Heartbreak Hill in Newton, and the finish line on Boylston Street. For those watching from home, coverage begins at 4 a.m. on WCVB Channel 5 and at 9 a.m. on ESPN2. Officials encourage people to use public transportation and plan ahead, as road closures and large crowds are expected. The Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon and remains one of the city's most iconic events. Thank you for tuning in to Braintree Today. We'll be right back with more in entertainment. The Massachusetts Breast Cancer Coalition is hosting its annual Against the Tide Swim, Run, and Walk fundraiser to support breast cancer prevention. The event brings together participants of all ages to raise awareness and funds through fitness and community participation. 2 in-person events are scheduled this summer. The first will take place Saturday, June 20th at Hopkinton State Park in Hopkinton. The second event will be held Saturday, June 27th at Nickerson State Park in Brewster on Cape Cod. Participants can also choose a virtual option anytime between June 20th and June 27th. Participants can take part in a variety of activities depending on their interests and ability level. Events include a USATF certified 5 and 10 kilometer runs, a 1-mile competitive swim, half-mile and 1-mile recreational swims, and a 3-mile fitness walk. Registration for the event is open now. For more information or to sign up, visit mbcc.org/againstthetide. Welcome back to Braintree Today. Now here are some new movies and shows that have been creating some social buzz. First, Faces of Death follows Margot, a woman who is employed at a social media company as a content moderator, when she comes across a series of violent videos reproducing death scenes from a film. Despite being told to ignore it, Margot dives into the origin of the videos, discovering they are staged by a deranged serial killer. The film stars Barbie Ferreira and Dacre Montgomery. You can watch Faces of Death now in theaters. Up next, Newborn follows Chris Newborn, who after spending 7 years in solitary confinement, is released into a world that feels both unfamiliar and overwhelming. Determined to rebuild his life, he attempts to reconnect with his family and navigate the routines of everyday freedom. As he struggles to adapt, he must find a way to bridge the gap between the man he was and the person he hopes to become. The film stars Aidan Stocks and Matthew Malria. You can watch Newborn now in theaters. Finally, Busboys follows two friends, Marky and Steve, who are convinced they've cracked the code to fixing their lives. Their genius idea is to start at the bottom of the restaurant world and quickly rise to waiter status, where they assume the real rewards are waiting. The film stars Theo Vaughn and David Spade. You can watch Busboys now in theaters. That'll do it for news today. Don't forget Verizon customers can watch BCAM TV in high definition on channel 2128 and Comcast on channel 1073. I'm Sarah Hamilton, and thank you for watching Braintree Today on BCAM TV. We'll see you next time.